Hello, everyone. Welcome to FS Changemakers. And as usual, we have a terrific woman joining us who will be sharing her journey with us today and inspire everybody who's listening. The person with us today is Gauri Das. Gauri is an engineer turned HR professional. She spent the last 15 years of her life aligning HR strategy with corporate goals for companies. Currently, she's the HR head of India Factoring and Finance Solutions Limited. Amongst many other awards, she's been recognized as an HR 100 under 40 by Top HR Mind India. And she's also been recognized as LinkedIn Person of the Year 2020. Welcome, Gauri. It's a pleasure to have you with us at FS Changemakers.
Thank you so much, Adarsh, and the platform FS Changemakers. You have created an amazing platform for women to come forward and share their stories and inspire others. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. It's just our pleasure that we get the opportunity to talk to amazing women like yourself. Uh, so, Gauri, let's start right at the beginning. How did you end up being a human resources professional? Was it by choice or something that happened by chance?
Yeah, so those days there were no psychometric tests to find out what you are good at, what is your aptitude and your liking. So I just followed the path of my family. My brother was an engineer, and that's how. And usually we used to have only two choices. It could be medical or engineering. We did not have a profession like blogging at that point of time. So since I was very poor in handwriting and drawing, I chose engineering. So that's how engineering happened. But in third year, by the time I was in third year of my engineering, I realized that I am not made for machines and I need to have a different profession. So the guidance came in form of one of my management professor engineering. We had a management subject as well, and he said that Dave Ulrich is writing new HR management. From personnel it is changing to HR, and I think you will be a good HR leader and you should venture into this area. So that's how HR happened for me.
Great, great. Gauri, you've now been in the field for the last 15 years. And how have you seen the relationship between organizations and their employees evolve over these last 15 years? And which direction do you see this headed in? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have seen a lot of change in terms of it being employer driven place to now all about employee experience. Now we think about when, as an employer, when I'm designing something, it's all about employee experience, employee engagement. Earlier, it was all about, okay, there are few jobs, and if you want to be here, you have to follow my rules. So the tables have turned, really turned, and I'm talking about those employers which are counted in good employer brands. They go extra mile for their employees, and they do whatever possible on earth to support them so that they get maximum engagement and productivity, and to a certain extent loyalty, which is not a norm now. Nobody's staying for many years in one organization, but organizations are going that extra mile to woo the people, woo candidates who are really good.
Cool. And we are sitting right now in 2021. It's been more than 1 year with this entire COVID pandemic having hit us, and companies across the world have moved to a work from home environment. There have been multiple other changes which have happened in the way companies operate because of the challenges posed by this entire situation. So, as the HR head at your organization, how have you dealt with this situation? What are some of the challenges that you've had to face, etc.?
So let's talk about in what industry is doing. So lot many things. Number one, I would say, would be empathetic leadership, right from movement from this micromanagement to now empowerment is what is all about. The COVID has taught us. This is most important lesson. So any discussion like you and I, when we started this conversation, it was all about how's your family, how are you doing, and that has moved to workplaces also. So every day, even if it is a daily meeting, people are talking about how are you keeping well, how's your family, and all of it. So that's one, the empathy piece. And the second, not only asking what is happening, but also supporting them. For example, someone has very young kids and they do not allow them to work during daytime. So you allow them to operate from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Your work is ready, but they can do it at peace and they can be with their kids also when they are awake. So that are the things which are being done when it comes to empathy. Another thing is skilling. A lot of focus is on skilling because according to me, there are 3S in people's mind. Number one is safety. So health and safety measures are most important thing currently. Anybody entering office, forget office. Even at home, people are worried about what's happening to their health, and now situation is really grim. So that is one thing. Second is security. Companies are also facing a hit, and job security is another thing which is in people's mind. And third is skilling, because digitization has been accelerated by many folds. Whatever was to happen 5 years, 10 years down the line has happened already. So jobs are definitely the monotonous one are at stake, and that's where one has to reskill, upskill, and skilling is another thing. So these are three themes along with empathy that I am seeing currently, and that's how people are being encouraged to stay motivated and stay relevant.
And do you see any permanent changes happening because of this period, right? That going forward as well, companies will now have to be mindful of some of these things, or what are some of the lessons for companies to integrate into their business as usual behavior as well once things are, probably back to normal or as close to normal as
Yeah.
possible?
Yes, very pertinent question, because by the time maybe we will be out of this, it would be 2 years or close to 2 years that we have done things like that.
Yeah.
So when first wave happened, everybody was like, how would we work from home? It's kind of impossible. Though certain organizations were already doing, but now nobody was doing it at this scale. Second wave, when it hit in April, people were already ready. Hardly anybody was in office. Even governments had their regulations that you can be only 30% in office or 50% in office. So hybrid model is what is going to work. Everything would have happened work from home unless we realized that engagement levels started going down after a while. In beginning, people started loving this new routine, but later on the learning came or the reality hit that though you are home, you are getting disconnected from the people. Those water cooler remarks, that mental well-being started getting affected. So that is one thing. Second, there are people who don't have infrastructure. They don't have large houses where they can operate. There are a lot many family members also, especially in Mumbai, where real estate is really very high. So these things taught us that we could not be 100% work from home, but it's going to be a hybrid model forever. So that is one of the learnings. And second learning is adaptability. You have to adapt to current situations. When I had to start talking to people over Zoom, it took me a while to understand how it operates. But today I log in at the same moment when the time has been given. Earlier, I would be joining 15 minutes early just to figure out how things are. So adaptability is another thing. And finally, I would say resilience is what COVID has taught us. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, we were not hiring for resilience, but today we are hiring people. If there are two equal candidates and I have to find out who should be in my company, it would be somebody who has shown resilience through their life. So these three learnings, I would say that have been very prominent learnings from COVID.
Thanks for sharing those insights, Gauri. So moving on to a different topic, I know which is very close to your heart, that is women empowerment. I know that you're very vocal about this as well. So what are some of the gaps that you still see from a gender equality perspective when it comes to workplace? Women empowerment and gender equality are two terms which we've now been using for a very long time. But what do you think are some of the biggest challenges and gaps which still exist?
Yeah, so again, a very pertinent topic, and you rightly said very close to my heart, because I have seen those times when I had series of rejections when I had to come back from maternity break, and most of the times the reason would be a nuclear family, a very young kid, who will take care of her, and how would you work here, because You will have to work here till 7:30. Who will take care of her? You don't have anybody at your home to take care of her. So those kind of things I have seen, and then pay cuts with which I had to re-enter the workforce. So these are some of the issues. But now I would relate it to even wellness or each and every practice that organization is taking care of, be it leave. So whatever government has given, beyond that, are you supporting your women? When it comes to maternity break, are you really allowing them to operate from home, or they need to be in office every time? Now we have awakened to this possibility that this is there. Pay range is also another reason. So this is from the side of organizations, that what more they can do. But for even from the side of our women, there are a lot many things that they need to do, because many a time they just think that they are not good enough, they are not made for this, it's a second income. And with those set of thoughts, they don't negotiate, they don't open up to the challenges they are facing, and they don't ask for it, they don't ask for help, they don't network. So women have to take these steps in right directions, and organizations have to support as well, if we want to really achieve that gender equality.
So very interesting thing that you brought up there when you said that some women think that they're not good enough, right? So I also read a study that women are more likely to under assess themselves for a given job, whereas men are more likely to over assess themselves.
Right.
Is that something which holds true for India as well as a geography, or it's more Western? And secondly, why is this the case?
Yeah, so very true. And besides whatever experiences I would have gained as a HR professional, I am also part of multiple women-oriented group. I have founded one, a Lean In Circle, and we are around 93 women there. And we do discuss these things, and these are realities. So a woman would not apply for a job unless she is really sure that it's 100% matching the job descriptions and the skill. And then they feel that I am not good enough for this role, how can I do this? So yes, these are realities, and it comes from the upbringing that we have got. When the man of the house enters and woman of the house also enters at the same time, the woman is expected to get a glass of water or make tea. This is what was happening. Things are improving, especially in cities, but in tier 2 or tier 3 places, we still see the same scenario, that women are responsible for both. Now they want to step out, and the household chores. Even for kids upbringing, women are the one who take a break. It's not men who take this responsibility. So yeah, whatever biologically not feasible to transfer, beyond that it should be equal, it should be an equal family, but that's not happening. Though I'm seeing the signs, and especially because women are out there now, there is a lot of effort from government, from organizations, and NGOs, and women themselves also. So they are awakening to this reality that they are good enough, and they can make a mark like men.
So it's interesting that we are sitting in appraisal season, and self-assessment is pretty important, right? Because if you assess yourself in the right manner, only then can you go out and ask for what
Absolutely.
is the right due for you. So what are some quick recommendations that you would like to give to the women who are watching us today, so that they self-assess themselves in the right way and can go and ask for what's their right?
Yeah, so self-awareness would be first thing. Identify your skills, identify your strengths. There are a lot many tools available now to find out what are your strengths. You can seek feedback from your friends, your well-wishers, but don't rely on the feedback fully, because unless you are 100% sure that the person is eligible to give you a feedback, they are good enough to give you a feedback, don't go by it. Because I have had a very negative personal experiences going by feedback of someone. So don't do that, but rely on whosoever is your well-wisher and is good enough to give you a feedback. Connect with lot many groups and find out what is good about you. You can speak with your colleagues. They will tell you what are your kind of weaknesses and what are your strengths. Once you have this self-awareness, try to find out. These are on technical sides and some other areas. Now leadership is another area where you need to really find out what is good and what is not good. Once you have these, try to work on each and every trait that is required for a particular job. Say, for example, you are eyeing for a strategic HR job. So first thing would be business acumen. To find out the behaviors which are required for business acumen and align whether you are doing it or whatever can be added. Second is strategic thinking. So these would be traits. You can identify 5 to 7 traits and then decide what is your rating at that point of time. So 10 is the highest rating and you are at 5, then try to bring it to 7 or 8, whatever you think is possible in say 6 months to 1 year time. So one is finding out what is required. Second is now aligning yourself with the requirement. And third is upskilling yourself. For that, you can do mentoring. I mean, you can seek support from a mentor who has been great in this particular area. They can guide you because you can quickly learn the traits of the particular trade when you have a mentor. So that's a third thing which you should do. And fourth, be consistent, because consistency is the one which will give you results. So whatever efforts you are putting in, get them validated through your mentor and then continuously work on them. So these would be 4 things I will suggest.
Cool, cool. Thanks for sharing those. Now, Gauri, we've spoken about your field of work. We've spoken about a topic which we know that you're very passionate about. Now, let's talk a bit more about you. So you've been LinkedIn Person of the Year 2020. What does the recognition mean to you? And how do you use LinkedIn as a platform? What is the meaning that it has in your professional life?
Yes, so recognition and LinkedIn is all about networking. I have met wonderful people through LinkedIn, and I would treasure that forever. What I do is I connect with 7 people every week. I have a large connection database now, so it's 32,000 plus that people connected to me on LinkedIn. Obviously, I can't connect with them everybody one-on-one, but 7 people a week is what my target is. And when I meet with them, there's so much diversity of thought that you can't be away from learning more and more. So that is one thing. LinkedIn helps me network with the right people, learn from them, and develop those bonds. Like I talked about this leaders lifting leaders, the lean in circle. It started in June, July last year, and we are now 93 plus. 100% of the connects are from LinkedIn. And now we meet twice in a month over Zoom for 1.5 hours. And we share our thoughts, ideas, and how we can help each other grow. So that is one thing. Second thing is when I write post on LinkedIn, I pick up data from multiple sources. One, I would have read something and I would have shared my thoughts. Second, I might be learning something and I need more thoughts. So it's kind of thought sourcing through LinkedIn. Because if you look at the comments on my post, it would be generally around 100, 150. And in those comments lies all the words of wisdom, because so many people writing about their experiences on the particular topic gives me loads of learning. And third is writing, because I want to revise something. I had read something and now I want to revise and get more views on it. So learning, networking, connecting with people, and making those bonds are 4 things about LinkedIn.
Thanks for sharing those. I'm pretty sure that it'll be pretty helpful to everybody who wants to, make a mark on LinkedIn and grow their followership and want to use the platform in a better way. So thanks a lot for that. Now, the next question is something that, we ask a lot of people because it at some level matters a lot to everyone. That is work-life balance, right? And you're an HR professional, and you obviously, are a professional, so you try to maintain your own balance.
Yes.
So what are your hacks on how do you ensure that you are at all times refreshed and never face that burnout of sorts, and that work-life balance remains for you?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up, because it's easy to slip and enter that zone of burnout, and you will not be able to come away from there unless you put in a lot of efforts. So it's better to be cautious and know your limits so that you don't overcommit. So 2, 3 things that I have seen, though for me the work-life balance works very well because I follow discipline and I can say no if there's any call after 6:30 unless it's an emergency, and we know these days there are challenges with COVID. I would definitely say that if it can wait till tomorrow, let's wait, because it's already 6:30 and I need to have my me time. So that is one thing. Second is asking for help. I do not think that I'm a superwoman and I can do everything. So I rely on my family to support me. Even when there was no maid, even my 12 years daughter was helping us through doing dishes, and my husband was helping with other things. So seeking for help is another thing, because I'm no superwoman. I have learned it through experience, and I really follow this. And third is having your own discipline in terms of whatever time you are spending, you are much more productive than anybody else. So your productivity should be very high. It should be 100%. It should not be that you spend 2, 3 hours on a particular call because you ended up talking anything and everything during your work time. So have a fixed routine, 9:30 to 6, whatever time you work, but work with full mindset. So what I do is I close my household chores by 9:30, and then I start my day. After that, I take only one break, which is related to lunch. So that break, preparing for lunch and having it, and then I am at work again till 6:30. So, but after that and before that, I'm not available for work because I'm spending full energy and full time in during this period. So I'm really productive, and I don't have to then step out of this boundary. So these are the things. And finally, there should be a way to plan your day. So when I'm making my to-do list, I first check what can wait, what can be eliminated, what can be delegated, what can be kind of extended or can be totally forgotten for say 1 month or so. And finally, what is critical. So once I have my critical for the day, I would be unavailable for everything else because I'll be focusing. So focus is another thing that I would suggest.
Thanks for sharing those insights, Gauri. Now, moving to the last part of our interview, which is a series of set questions that we ask all our guests. And the first one is, given that we are featuring you as part of our FS Changemaker series, we would love to, hear an incident or a story from your life which has had a pivotal impact on who you are as a person or has made you into the kind of person you are.
Okay. So going back to my childhood or talking about my college days, I would be, so these were the questions which were asked to me. You would not be able to make your career, forget about even getting a job. Now, this was told to me because I started my career from Guwahati, Assam. Now, everyone knows that that's not a good place to do that. And the story goes like this. I did my engineering and I wanted to go for MBA. I appeared for entrance exam and secured good marks, but life had some other plans for me. And before going to college, I went to Mandap. I got married off, and then with my husband, I went to Guwahati. Here I was in Guwahati, and I'm struggling to get a job. That too in 2005. There was nothing which I could think of in terms of making a career. And people were right when they said you will not be able to do anything. Your career is doomed. And here my friends were who were earning in dollars. They were in US because I was a computer engineer. It was a class of computer engineers. So that was one thing which made me realize that you may plan something, but you may not get across things. You may not uh, get to execute those plans. So you have to always be ready with whatever life throws on you. It's like getting lemons and keep on making lemonades. Another incident, so I studied in vernacular medium. It was a very small village. The school was like just a hall, and irrespective of which standard you belong to, you would be in the same hall. So everybody studied together, whether it was standard 1 or standard 8. This is the kind of school I studied in. And then when I went for engineering, the challenge was communication. I was good at academics, but English was not was very difficult for me. So I still remember there used to be a subject of English, and every day we used to get assignments. So first day I went to a friend asking her help because I was very poor in English. She guided me. And second day when I went to her, she said, "You come every day. Why do you come to me every day? I'm not going to help you." So this is the kind of response you will get from people, and you have to be ready with it. So this is my message, that do not get bogged down by whatever challenges life is facing on you. Whatever your past has been, what people have told you, you have to have focus, and you have to have this thought in your mind that I am going to make a mark for myself, and you must be able to do it with your discipline, with your passion and consistency.
And given the challenges you faced and where you've reached in your career is definitely heartening and inspiring for everybody who's watching us today. So thanks a lot for sharing those details. So last, we will move on to our rapid fire round, which is a series of 3 questions which are set in stone, and every guest gets the same questions. So we'll start with the first one, which is, who are the 3 Indian women who inspire you?
My mom, my daughter, I have learned a lot from her, and Kiran Bedi.
An impressive choice, I must say. The next question is, what are the 5 wardrobe staples that you need to have with you at all times?
And that's a difficulty, because when it comes to Western clothes, you don't have much choices. And it's good to know from you today that your organization is doing something about it. So we should have, I think it should be a combination of all 3. The traditional one, a good sari, which can be worn at for meetings, for various functions. I'm referring to corporates. And then there should be a good salwar kurta also, because sari may not be possible all the time. And definitely a Western, but I'm so short of choices there. So I'm looking forward to, now whenever lockdown is open, going to your shop. Is it online, offline? I'm not aware, but I'm going to do more research on this.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. The final one would be, any parting remarks to all our audience today?
Yeah, so I would say that adaptability, agility, and consistency are key today. You have to be adaptable, like we have done in last 1 year. This is how the world is going to be. Every day is going to be a new day, and you have to adapt to your situations. You can't say tomorrow that I don't like a hybrid work environment, because that's how the world is going to be. So have this adaptability in your mind, that okay, 2 days I can work from office and I will be productive. 3 days I will be home and I'll still be productive. So that is adaptability. Agility, keep learning. Now, my example, I did my psychology master's after 13 years of experience, because I really required it, thinking that if I have to do well in human resources, I need to understand human psychology better. And I'm continuously learning. Few weeks ago, I did a course in design thinking, because I design policies for my organization. I design strategies, and their design thinking really comes handy. So overall, you have to do these. And finally, consistency of efforts, because if we don't have discipline and consistency, any efforts taken would not make us reach the goal. So those are the things. And you must inspire, you must aspire to inspire before you expire, is my mantra.
Thanks so much, Gauri. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for taking out the time.
Thank you so much for wonderful questions and thought-provoking ones. I'm sure our viewers get benefited by it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.